Hey guys, come on downstairs. This is the story of the 2018 Minnesota Vikings. It's year number 2 of our Minnesota Vikings franchise. In week number 1, we start things off in Los Angeles on the road, facing a familiar opponent. Former Vikings quarterback from last season, Sam Bradford, leads the Rams into battle this season. And for us, we have a new quarterback who is wearing a familiar number. I'm sure one that is actually retired in Vikings history. Jimmy Garoppolo sporting Fran Tarkenton's number 10. And we will see if Jimmy Garoppolo can replace what Sam Bradford did or outperform him in this season of Minnesota Vikings franchise. He looked good in the opening week against the Rams, hooking up with Stefon Diggs, who took a big shot there from Maurice Alexander. Latavius Murray then decides to body surf in on the back of some offensive linemen. EA, what in the world is that? Anyway, I'm not going to complain about it. That's for Ryan Moody to do. I am just going to play the game. And we go on to get a 33-15 victory in week number 1 of the season. So we start things off right. We are back home for week number 2 against the Detroit Lions. Both teams coming into this matchup at 1-0. It is the home opener at US Bank Stadium here in year number 2. Jimmy Garoppolo leading the Vikings out onto the turf for the first time in year number 2 in Minneapolis. Latavius Murray bowls over a Lions defender before being tripped up. This was a defensive battle between the Lions and the Vikings. The Vikings have a very good defense coming into this year number 2. The offense is where the question marks lie, but we're going to get a guard in on the action. That's number 68. What is he, an emergency tight end or what? I don't know. Either that or we're passing to an illegal man downfield. Stefon Diggs now with the catch. Backup running back Dalvin Cook on the right side for the score. That would be the Vikings' only touchdown of the first 3 quarters. It is a 9-7. The defense doing the job for the Vikings, led by safety Harrison Smith, who lays the lumber on Eric Ebron there. Smith had a fantastic game, as did the entire Vikings secondary, breaking up passes from Stafford and picking off a couple passes as well. I believe Harrison Smith had 2 interceptions in this game off of Stafford, but the Lions win 9-7 as the Vikings offense let them down. And so we head into week number 3 on the road in Buffalo to take on the Bills and former New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees. The Bills are 2-0 coming into this game. We are 1-1, and Buffalo strikes first on a long touchdown pass from Brees to Sammy Watkins, who goes up and over the top of Trey Waynes for the 55-yard touchdown reception for Buffalo, and the Bills are up 7-0 early in quarter number 1. We play this Madden series on 12-minute quarters. Jimmy Garoppolo to Latavius Murray, who rolls into the end zone on the back of a Bills defender, and midway through the second quarter, the Vikings would lead 10-7. Here is Garoppolo again. He finds Stefon Diggs on the slant, reverses field, makes a guy miss, and then it's just a foot race the rest of the way. And he is finally caught and dragged down to the 3-yard line. And that would lead to a Stefon Diggs touchdown over the middle. Let's reward the guy who brought us there. Stefon Diggs for the touchdown. Vikings lead 20-13 with a minute left in the third quarter. Drew Brees. Meet Everson Griffin. Brees fumbles the football. It's picked up by Nick French and run in for a scoop and score. And the Vikings go on to win week number 3, 30-13 over Buffalo in upstate New York. So we are now 2-1 as we head to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. The Packers owned us last season, but they come into this game at 1-2. And early in the game, Randall Cobb, with the reception from Aaron Rodgers, puts the Packers out in front 7-0 early in the first quarter. Aaron Rodgers throwing off of his back foot. This one is picked off by Harrison Smith, another interception, and Harrison Smith is going to take this one to the house. Touchdown Vikings. That ties the score up at 7. And that is Harrison Smith's 20th career interception. Aaron Rodgers would hook up with Bennett here. And the Packers would jump out to a 21-7 lead. But the Vikings would answer. Stephon Diggs from Jimmy Garoppolo cuts the lead to 7 with 9:37 to go in the second quarter. And Garoppolo again finds Stephon Diggs. A little bit of a nice connection developing between Garoppolo and Diggs. And then the touchdown to Adam Thielen ties the game up at 21 in the fourth quarter. It's anybody's ball game. Aaron Rodgers, can he come in and lead his team to another win here at Lambeau Field like he has done many, many times? But will this one be different? Sendejo says yes as he pulls a running back down in the end zone for a safety. It's 23-21 Vikings. And a nice coverage sack by Sendejo. Aaron Rodgers drops the ball, and there is that man again. This isn't Nick French. This is Floyd. And Floyd staying on his feet all the way in for the touchdown. And the Minnesota Vikings defense helps lead them to a 38-28 win as they outscored the Packers 31-7 to close out the game. So the Vikings are 3-1 heading into New York, the MetLife Stadium, to face the New York Jets, who are winless at 0-5. Garoppolo stepping up in the pocket, throwing deep down the left side, hooks up with Stephon Diggs, and Diggs is going to score. And this game was an easy win for the Vikings, 41-21 over the hapless New York Jets. And we are now 4-1 heading into Week 7 back in Minneapolis against the New England Patriots. The Patriots are at 4-2. Both teams wearing some throwbacks. Patriots throwbacks here, some of my favorite throwback uniforms in the entire NFL. Patriots jump out to an early lead. And then this return by Sherrills electrifies the U.S. Bank Stadium crowd. But the drive would end with a Garoppolo interception by Stephon Gilmore of the Patriots, and Tom Brady would find Gronkowski in the end zone. The Patriots would go on to win 17-6. And we head into week number 8 hosting the San Francisco 49ers. We are at 4-2. And the 49ers get a blocked kick by Ward. And it is going to be picked up and taken to the house for the touchdown. 49ers out to a 17-3 lead. Dalvin Cook in for an injured Latavius Murray. He was injured often throughout the season, so Dalvin Cook got the lion's share of the carries. Garoppolo over the middle for the score, cuts the lead. It gives the Vikings the 20-17 lead. But the 49ers would close out regulation with a field goal to tie it and send this game into overtime. At the end of overtime, though, the Vikings have a chance to win the game on the foot of Kai Forbath, and his kick is up. And it is going to sail short and off the crossbar. No good. This game would end in a 20-20 tie. And we go to week 9 at 4-2-1 hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Kenny Urbick, backup quarterback, will start here for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo. Only 14 yards passing in his career, so the Vikings are going to have to rely on the defense heavily in this game if they're going to beat the Cardinals. Harrison Smith with a pick six. That's, I believe, his second pick six of the season, 5th interception overall for the Vikings all-pro safety. Carson Palmer winding up, throwing deep. And this one would be pulled down and caught by Seth Roberts for the Cardinals touchdown in the back of the end zone. Great hands by Roberts. And speaking of great hands, there is a nice catch by Cardobin, one of our backup tight ends. And then Dalvin Cook powers his way into the end zone for the touchdown. And the Vikings would lead 14-7 in the third quarter. Kai Forbath would add a field goal to make it 17-7 in the fourth. And Carson Palmer and the Cardinals cannot come back. Final score 31-15 over the Cardinals. So midway through the season, we're 5-2-1, and we are on the road in Seattle, Washington, CenturyLink Field to take on the Seattle Seahawks here in week number 10. Richard Sherman, Jimmy Graham, and Seattle. Russell Wilson doing what Russell Wilson does, escaping out of the pocket into the flat, and he's going to run it in for the score. The elusive quarterback, Kenny Urbick, starting again for the Vikings, the backup quarterback, for the second week in a row in place of Jimmy Garoppolo, who is hurt. Stephon Diggs for the touchdown here. And then Urbick would be picked off by Earl Thomas, and Earl Thomas would take this one back quite a ways before finally being dragged down. The drive would end in a Doug Baldwin touchdown. And then Urbick again on an ill-advised pass. This one is going to go to the house. No chance for anybody to catch this, man. It is shed. And the Seahawks win 38-21. We fall to 5-3-1. Week 11, we are at home against the Green Bay Packers, trying to complete the 2-game season sweep against our rivals. And Stephon Diggs out across the 40 to the 42-yard line here. Nice catch by Diggs. He's having himself a very good season. Jimmy Garoppolo is back. Latavius Murray is still gone. Here's the give to Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook eating up some yardage against the Packers defense. The Vikings trying to keep the ball on the ground, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. And that game plan seems to have worked. The Packers had a chance there. It was broken up by Harrison Smith. The secondary for the Vikings has been spectacular this season. 17-13 Vikings with the win. We go to week number 12, facing the Chicago Bears at home against the last place team in the NFC North in the black and blue division. But it is a rivalry, and anything can happen in rivalry games. We know that. In football, nice interception here by Rhodes. And then Garoppolo hooks up with Michael Floyd, the former Arizona Cardinals receiver, and he goes in for the score. And the Vikings get the 23-6 win at home over the Chicago Bears. Next up, a revenge game against the Detroit Lions. We are 7-3-1. The Lions are 6-5. And this would be a huge win for us to put some separation in the NFC North standings between us and the second-place Lions. But the Lions have different ideas here in Detroit at Ford Field. Jones with the touchdown pass from Stafford. Missed tackle by Sendejo. And Dalvin Cook from the Wildcat formation takes it in for the score. It is 13-10 in favor of the Lions at the half. But in the second half, Lions backup quarterback, I can't remember his name, takes over for Matthew Stafford, and the Lions explode for 24 unanswered points in the second half and get the win. Week number 14, we're back at home against the 5-7 New Orleans Saints. The Saints, without Drew Brees, they just basically switched quarterbacks. They now have Tyrod Taylor. Drew Brees goes to the Bills, Tyrod Taylor to the Saints. And the Saints with a big kickoff return here. And this one could go the distance, but not quite. Pulled down at the 1 yard line. Pulled down at the 1, and the Vikings defense would hold from there and keep the Saints to just a field goal. And then Jimmy Garoppolo breaks the tackle, runs it in for the touchdown. It's 7-3 with just 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. The Vikings take the lead here at home. But then Tyrod Taylor goes sliding into the end zone to tie it up at 10 in the second quarter. Kai Forbath would miss a field goal that would have tied the game up, and the Vikings lose 23-20. And we head into Week 15 at 7-5-1, facing the 8-5 Dallas Cowboys from Arlington, Texas. Cowboys, this could be a potential playoff preview between these two teams. The Cowboys would strike first. Switzer with the touchdown. And with just 2 minutes to go in the first half, the Cowboys lead 10-3. Into the second half now, Latavius Murray, who's back from injury, trying to make his presence felt, goes to the left side for the first down. 500 rushing yards this season, an injury-plagued season for Latavius Murray. Here's the pass out into the flat now to Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook, who has really carried the load out of the backfield for the Vikings this season with the 30-yard reception. And then the touchdown pass over the middle to Kyle Rudolph. And at the half, the game is all tied up at 10 apiece. Second half action now. Jimmy Garoppolo stepping up, throwing it deep down the right sideline. And Stephon Diggs gets position, makes the catch, is pulled down at the 2. A huge gain for the Vikings, 53-yard reception on the play. And then the Vikings would hand it to Dalvin Cook to do the rest of the work. He powers his way in for the score. And Minnesota would go on to win 22-10 to improve to 8-5-1. Week 16 against the Miami Dolphins. A win here would give the Vikings an inside track to the playoffs. It wouldn't quite clinch the playoffs, but it would make it awfully hard to miss the playoffs so the Vikings could win this game. The Dolphins at 8-5 are a playoff team in the AFC. They already had the playoffs clinched. And so the Dolphins playing without a whole bunch of pressure. The Vikings fumbled the football there. It was just a bad day all around for Minnesota. All kinds of bad stuff happened. Fumbles, blocked kicks, and the Dolphins would win it 14-0. We are shut out for the first time in this franchise. So that brings us to week number 17. It all comes down to this. We are 8-6-1. The Atlanta Falcons, who have the final playoff spot, have won today. They are 9-7. So a win here and we are in the playoffs. A loss and we will be out. The Lions have clinched the division. They are 10-6. But we can still sneak into the back door of the playoffs with a win here. And we hook up with Stephon Diggs down the left sideline to take a 7-3 lead in the second quarter. And things are looking pretty good for the Vikings. The defense was holding. And then the Bears took over in the third quarter, 20-10. The Bears take the lead there. And from there on, it was just an implosion by the Vikings defense, who was number 1 in the NFL all season long, gives up 34 points to a 4-11 team, almost over 500 yards of total offense, and we fall short of the playoffs for the second year in a row. We finish at 8-7-1. Second place in the NFC North. The Lions win the division. They are 10-6. The Cowboys and the Eagles make it to the playoffs out of the East. The Panthers at 12-4 will get a first round bye. The Seahawks at 14-2 will also get a first round bye. And the Atlanta Falcons at 9-7 get that final playoff spot. So we finish at 8-7-1. We are second in the NFC North for the second year in a row. Although this year's record was better, so maybe baby steps, maybe next year will be the year that we finally break through and get into the playoffs here on our Minnesota Vikings franchise. So we'll go ahead and get to the playoffs after we show you the AFC final standings, and then we'll go over our final statistics of the year. But stay tuned to find out who won this year 2 Super Bowl championship in Vikings franchise. The Patriots get a first round bye, as do the Oakland Raiders at 11-5. The Steelers are also 11-5, but they'll have to play in the first round. The Titans win the South. The Bills and the Dolphins are the 2 wildcard teams, both from the AFC East. The Bills with a very good season at 12-4, and the Dolphins at 10-6. The New York Jets finish at 1-15, a horrible season in New York for the Jets, Jets. Jacksonville at 9-7, Los Angeles Chargers at 9-7, and the Chiefs all miss out on the playoffs, as do the Cincinnati Bengals at 9-7. Let's look at our Minnesota Vikings final team statistics. In total offense, we were dead last in the NFL, as we were a season ago. The change in quarterback from Sam Bradford to Garoppolo didn't seem to help. Passing offense, we were dead last. Rushing offense, we were 20th. And points per game, we were 30th in the NFL. Defensively, though, a completely different story. We had the best defense in the NFL, as I believe the Vikings do in real life. 291.3 yards per game. Passing defense was number 1 in the NFL. Rushing defense was number 14. Points per game allowed, just 19.8, was first in the NFL, but our offense couldn't do enough to parlay that into a playoff appearance. We were second in the NFL in sacks, behind just the Kansas City Chiefs, and we had a +2 turnover differential. Jimmy Garoppolo, 2,950 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Dalvin Cook, 189 carries for 821 yards and 10 touchdowns. Latavius Murray, 134 carries for 570 yards and 6 touchdowns in an injury-plagued season for Murray. Receiving-wise, Stephon Diggs, 57 catches, 1,121 yards and 6 touchdowns. Great season for Stephon Diggs, and he stayed healthy for pretty much the whole year. Kyle Rudolph, 42 catches, 505 yards, 2 touchdowns for our big tight end, sure-handed and very reliable tight end Kyle Rudolph. Michael Floyd, 27 catches, 408 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And not pictured, but Adam Thielen had about a very similar season to Michael Floyd. Defensively, Kendricks was our leading tackler with 90. He also had 5.5 sacks. Harrison Smith had 80 tackles, 1 sack, 7 interceptions. Sendejo had 4 interceptions and 4 sacks. Floyd had 10 sacks, 14 sacks for Danielle Hunter, and 10.5 sacks for Everson Griffin. And we're going to have some decisions to make in the offseason on which defensive linemen to keep. I don't think we're going to be able to keep all of them. Hunter, Floyd, Lemur, and Griffin, all of those guys, something's going to have to give on the defensive line. So quick look at the playoffs now. In the wild card round, the Dolphins lose to the Steelers 35-28. The Bills beat the Titans 24-17. Over in the NFC, the Detroit Lions beat the Falcons 34-29. So the NFC North champion will move on to the divisional round. The Cowboys beat the Eagles 42-28 from Dallas, and we will head to the divisional round. The Bills will face the Patriots, the Steelers at the Raiders, the Cowboys at the Seahawks, and the Lions will face the Carolina Panthers. First up, the Patriots knock the Bills out of the playoffs with a 42-36 win. The Raiders fall at home against the Steelers 38-35. The Lions beat the Carolina Panthers on the road 20-13, and the Seahawks beat the Cowboys 38-20 to advance to the NFC Championship. So the conference championships will be the Steelers and the Patriots. No surprise there in the AFC. Those two teams have dominated the AFC for a decade or more. And the Lions will face the Seahawks. So in the AFC Championship, the Steelers beat the Patriots 26-23 on the road, and the Lions beat the Seahawks 31-28 on the road as well. So our Super Bowl matchup is going to be the Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl, 53? Super Bowl 53. And the Steelers get the win 35-29. So the Steelers, an experienced organization in winning Super Bowls. The Lions obviously are not. And your Super Bowl 53 champions for year number 2 of our Minnesota Vikings franchise is the Pittsburgh Steelers, as last year it was the Los Angeles Chargers over the New York Giants. So that is year number 2, the story of the 2018 Minnesota Vikings here on Mama's Basement Sports Gaming.